Hi, my name is Brian Lavallee, and I'm going to be talking about my assignment 3 for Comp482 for Athabasca University. For assignment 3, I created a patient information system, which was used to store patient data and give the users the ability to manipulate it by either editing, deleting, adding new medical treatments that are needed, and just being able to view the patient information as well. It was based heavily around mimicking a real-life hospital patient information system. So the system was designed to have functionality in mind and not aesthetics. I preferred this route as I'm very much not a graphics designer, as you'll see later in the demonstration. And it was hypothetically built for RVH. That's what I pitched in assignment 1. With having just a information system, the complexity of the project is relatively easy as compared to what some students may make. However, with having information systems being used heavily in the business world, it's a good idea to understand the basics around them and understanding how to always keep improving. For the main task, like ability to manage patients is number one. This can be either adding, editing, deleting, or adding a new medical condition. All of this can be accessed from the basic landing view once a user logs on into the system. Another major task was searching patients, as with hospitals having new patients every day. Personally, I come from Barrie, and Royal Victoria Hospital is always busy. So having patients come in every day and having up to, like, say 200, 300 new additions, you have to have a search functionality, or else getting a patient's information would take way too long. And also, I just had a simple view all page. What this does is it just gives ability for a system manager to just see how many patients are currently in the database. You can access the information from there. You can see if you need to delete any, etc. And then also, lastly, like I talked about the login, you can also register as a nurse, doctor, visitor. The way to register, there's no functionality based around to check to see if that person is actually them. It's all based on, like, for that's outside the scope of this project. The next stage of this prototype development would actually be creating a security system around the data. Alright, so for my walkthroughs, each walkthrough was specifically built for one task. So for the add patient task, the walkthrough was built for what I decided, for what I wanted to achieve while adding a new patient. So when I was creating the walkthrough, I wanted to see all the different routes that I could take. And then once I built the walkthrough, I went over it and ensured that if I did something wrong, the system would pick up it. And so that's how the walkthroughs were initially developed. So, like, depending on the specific task, some walkthroughs had a lot more checks than others. Like, adding new patient had a lot of tasks. Sorry, not had a lot of tasks, had a lot more checks, mainly because there's a lot of input validation. So technically, there could be multiple mistakes that a user makes, but and the walkthrough would have to pick up on that. And then also, the walkthroughs weren't just performed during assignment 1. And then after I finished the creation of the system. I performed walkthroughs multiple times during the development phase to see what needed to be tweaked. What this meant is that I always understood how my system was performing. If, for instance, searching a patient was relatively slow, or there was a new addition in the navigation route to search patients, I would either update on that the walkthrough or check to see if the new addition in the navigation was necessary. And often not, it was a mistake on my part for adding that new navigation. So the walkthroughs were used as a way to test. So how were the prototypes developed? I only created one prototype. There's a lot of low fidelity prototypes where I just hand drawn them. They followed the structure as outlined in my assignment 1. But then the ending prototype that I developed for my application was all based around what I did in assignment 1. I evaluated based on how it performed during the walkthroughs. If something needed to be tweaked, I would tweak it, as I just talked about. And then lastly, I didn't just want to use myself as the main tester of the system. So I asked friends to come over and to test it and to see what they liked and what they didn't like. Because as you are developing your own piece of software, you'll become blind to many issues because you're just so used, oh, I just have to do this, this, and this to get around it. But for a new user that has no information on it whatsoever, that could cause a lot of problems. And with using friends to help test, it was a great way to see what needed to be fixed and what didn't. And then just a quick overview of technologies used. I created a Windows Form application, which is mainly coded in C#. C# is a relatively good programming language for myself, so I understood the basics of how to create a Windows Form application. It was the first time I created one, so it was definitely a learning experience. It was very easy, actually. How much that is built into the editor with creating different functions is unbelievable. I highly recommend anyone to just actually learn Windows Form applications because it could be used if you want to create systems down the line. It made creating this assignment a breeze. And then just for the database, I used the SQL server that is used in Visual Studio. That was just simply used for the database. Not much really to say. It's just your standard SQL database. It uses MySQL to perform queries. Anyone who has taken a programming program at a university would more than likely have used SQL. And then lastly, for the design rationale, like I said before, it's absolutely functionality first. I wanted to create a system that was efficient in design that allowed the quick adding, editing, and deletion of patients. Because when admitting patients, it's usually done during triage in the real world. That has to be fast. Patients could come in bleeding, distraught, and you need to be able to add the information as quickly as possible so they can get calmed down and they can get treatment right away. Or they have to wait 6 hours, depending on how busy the hospital is or whatnot. And then lastly, it's minimalistic. I didn't want to go and create 10, 15 different views just for the sake of having the views made. I didn't think that was necessary, and also it would just slow down the application overall, and it would theoretically destroy the whole scope of the project. So with all that information out of the way, I'm just going to give a quick little demonstration. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly go over the design of the system and show you it in how it performs functionally. So here, this is a simple login splash page. It's what the user will see when they first start the application. So we're a new user here, so we're going to register. We're going to register as test user, and our password will just be test. We're going to be a doctor, so I'll register. Username is actually already taken, so we have to provide a different one. So because only one user can have one username, like most systems, this does have a check for it. So we are actually going to be demonstration. Okay, let's register that. All right, we're fine. We'll go back here. Demonstration and test. So now you log in. Welcome demonstration. So there's the logout button, and we have two patients already in. This is the system overview screen that they'll see here when they first arrive into the application. We'll click on Brian. Confirms. We'll say yes. This is the patient overview. So you can see all this is blanked out. You cannot change it. You can only change it if you go to Edit Patient. And this is what that looks like. There's all input validation around here. So like if I try to put a space in OHIP, it'll yell at me. If I try to put a letter in wait, it'll yell at me. If I want to change postal code to some garbage data, You can't. There is input validation. The only downfall from this is that there is actually, I don't have functionality in place that showcases the proper format that would be needed by a user. So a user would actually more than likely make a mistake while entering the data, and then they may get a little bit frustrated because the system didn't tell them beforehand, hey, you might want to do this instead of that. That is a design flaw which I talked about in my report. It's I notified that under one of the heuristics. It would be a very simple fix. We would just have to use a placeholder on one of these data elements. You would more than likely do that in the admit new patient though, so we'll go to that screen in here. The reason why you would want to have the format displayed here is because if it's displayed here, when they first added a new patient to the system, they'll be able to recognize the values that they enter into this screen in the edit screen, and they'll remember. I guess they'll have to do a little bit of recalling. They'll remember, hey, I have to have it as a specific way in order for it to work. So we'll just do Laura Brooke. OHIP is OHIP 123. Height is 87 centimeters. A little short, you know. 65 pounds, and she is 8. Guess she's not very short anymore. We'll just do 26 Golden Meadow. Postal code is L4N, and then we'll do some garbage data. So there's invalid input. It has to be a specific format. So we will just do that very specific format. Obviously, the letters and numbers can change depending on what is a valid postal code in Canada. We'll do Barry. Phone number will be entering a little bit more garbage data. Invalid phone number. Format is the specified format as shown on screen. So we will do that. Then email address. I don't want to give email, so no email. This will actually say, please enter a valid email or no email at all, and it'll take away. So that just infers to the user, hey, if you don't want to add an email, just don't put anything there. That's perfectly fine. Reason for a minute, whooping cough. Which is relatively weird to get it that late. So we'll do admit new patient. OHIP duplication. So this means that the patient's already in the database. Obviously from before, the patient name's different, but the OHIP is not. You can't have multiple OHIPs in the database, as this is used as one of our keys. It's not the primary key, but it is used when retrieving information. So I just made it so you can't have duplicate OHIPs, as I believe Ontario government doesn't issue duplicate OHIPs anyways. So we'll just do demo 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever. With new patient. Patient successfully admitted, and then there's Laura Brooke. Fun factor is you can click on these cells, and you can go to the patient overview page. And edit, delete. It always has a confirmation page for delete, so no, I don't want to delete Brian. Comes back here. Print. It's a little bit more functionality. However, it just takes a literal screenshot of the patient overview form and puts it on a page to print. Doesn't look that nice, but that would be developed later on in the system's life. And then for searching, we'll put a B, and then we'll see Brian and Laura. And Laura's up there first, and that is because results are ordered by newest patient. And also Laura is male, so actually we'll go fix that, because that was a mistake. So we'll edit. Gender is not male, it is female. Save changes. She's now female. That is good. Lastly, we'll just do view all patients. As you can see here, it's just a simple view all page. So that's just the general basic basis of my design. So you can see actually demonstration is a little bit long for this. That would be another thing that I pointed out in heuristics. But overall, the system design is focused more on functionality than aesthetics, and I hope you enjoyed this small presentation. Thank you.